What's up, Bulldogs? So today I'm going to answer the question, are commitment-focused men unattractive? And I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to tell you honestly, by the end of this video, one, whether or not that being a commitment-focused guy is going to make you unattractive to women. But also, in addition to that, towards the end of the video, I'm going to give you some tips on how to avoid being that commitment-focused guy and to still get commitment, to still get a relationship and to get commitment out of women as a bonus by being the non-commitment focused guy. I'm John from BulldogMindset.com. On this channel, I teach you how to build the life that you want to build as a man, how to develop the physical fitness, the wealth, whether it be from investing in real estate to building a business, and also the relationship skills that you need in order to attract women and to have the kind of life that you want. So I got this email, and someone sent me this video from this guy, this develop attraction guy. I haven't seen his videos before. This is my first time seeing it. He's got kind of an interesting looking green screen there. So I expected some kind of like really weird advice to come from this just based on the presentation. But what I found was a very intelligent person who seems to really understand human psychology. And I looked at a couple of other ones of his videos. And so, like I said, I don't know the guy, but hey, I think he's got some pretty solid advice. This video that he has here is commitment-focused men are unattractive. Men that are seeking commitment are going to be unattractive to women in pretty much in any culture. And he talks about the idea that women are the ones that should be seeking commitment. Men should be seeking freedom as their primary objective, right, and their mission in life. And I have to say, I totally 100% agree with him. This is a very, very important thing to understand, I think, as a man, right? So, a lot of you guys are out there, and your goal really, especially some of the guys that I coach and stuff, as far as pickup or social dynamics, social anxiety, those type of things. What they're trying to do is they're trying to basically go out there, okay, and they want to attract women, right, so that they can find a girlfriend and so that they can have this long-term relationship, so they can build commitment. And when their objective is that, they're going to ultimately come off as needy, right? It's not really a good purpose, and it really is. It is needy, right? Because you're doing things, you're specifically changing yourself, you're manipulating your own behavior, right? You're doing these things not necessarily to serve your greater mission or what you want in life, but to serve someone else, right? You're trying to find this girl, you're trying to lock her down, right? It comes from a mentality of scarcity, right? And women are going to detect that, and they are not going to respond favorably to that, right? So I think you hear, right, you hear a lot of women say that they're looking for men. Why are men so afraid of commitment? They're looking for men that are willing to commit, and you think, hey, I'm that guy, I'll be committed, and you think you might be doing something good, but you're actually doing something bad. And there's a lot of dynamics at play here. One of them is just, the polarization, right? So that the men and women are different, right? The masculine and the feminine, and the masculine seeks freedom. Okay, that's the primary focus of the masculine, is to seek freedom, to seek the mission, the purpose, right? Action-oriented and drive, right? The one, probably most attractive trait that you can have as a man, right, in the long term, is to be a man who has a mission in his life, has a drive that he's going for, and is driven to go down that path and to seek what he wants out of life, right? You think about the kind of stereotypical maybe bad boy or attractive kind of alpha male, and what do you think about? You don't think about a guy that is looking for commitment, right? You don't think about a guy that wants to be tied down. You think about a guy that wants his freedom, right? You think about motorcycle, riding the Harley, what that represents. You think about a guy that is a rebel, that does what he wants, okay? That acts on his own will, doesn't necessarily care what other people think, isn't worried about stepping on some toes, coming off rude. He doesn't care because he's focused on what he wants, right? And you think about all those movies where you have this kind of alpha male like lead character, and you think about that, there's women, right, but they're kind of side notes, right? His main mission is never like to get the girl. And the romantic comedies, okay, that are, you'd call chick flicks, the guy's mission is to get the girl. Okay, even then he's attractive because he has something else, and she has to kind of win him over, and she has to make him realize that, you know, she's so important, and then, you know, he shifts his mission eventually at the end towards her. But in the really, you know, if you think about the real movies where you have this kind of really strong masculine character, it's always going to be about that drive and that mission, and seeking that freedom, not being tied down, right? Whereas the feminine, right? We just talked about the masculine. The feminine is much more about seeking to, you know, nurture, to seek that commitment, right? They're looking for the long term, right? If you think about it from the survival, they're looking for a provider, right? Not that they don't want the alpha bad boy, they do, but they want him to be free and then they want to be the one to like rope him in, but they don't want to ever be able to totally catch him. Okay, that's the thing, because he loses that appeal when that happens. And you see this in relationships. You see this in long-term relationships and marriages and in other long-term relationships where, you know, you hear all the time that guys are like, oh, you know, as soon as we moved in together, she stopped wanting sex, right? Or something like that. And the reason why is because he's basically just given up 100% of his freedom, given up 100% of his drive, has dedicated his life to this one girl, and then, you know, at this point she's lost that attraction, right? So you can see that, and that's why that occurs. It has nothing to do with you know, with the institution of marriage or the moving in. It has everything to do with that lack of perceived freedom and the man giving up on that drive. It doesn't mean that you have to do that as men. You can still have that drive. You can still be mission focused, and, you know, not base your entire life around a particular girl or woman. Instead, to base your life around your mission and your objective in life, right? Whatever you're trying to accomplish, and have her be number two, right? Women want to be number two, not number one. And that's one of the key components of this. So this is really not a bad thing. Okay. This is something to understand just about the psychology of human beings, and this whole, you know, the cat and mouse. It's all about this. The man needs to be the one not seeking commitment, and he needs to be the one that's seeking freedom, and the woman needs to be trying to lock him down. And that's just how it goes, right? That's you know, if you're a guy that is turning, and, you know, she's trying to chase you or chase after you in that commitment sense, and you are trying to do the same thing, there's no polarization, there's no chase, there's no you know, there's nothing happening, there's no spark there, because you're stopping that from occurring, right? So best thing, right, you know, for you guys that are actually interested in longer term relationships, and I've told you guys, you know, on this channel, and, you know, it's not always the most popular opinion, but I just give it to you straight. For most of you single guys, I would say to wait until you're at least in your 30s, because you're going to have a lot more options, a lot more opportunity. You're going to be much more grounded as a man, know your purpose, have a lot more money and status, and just a lot more opportunity to develop and grow yourself in experience, which is going to allow you to have a larger selection of women and the experience to pick correctly. But I've told you guys that, you know, many times. But what I would say, you know, regardless of whether or not you're taking that advice, if you are looking for, you know, a long-term type of relationship, I can tell you, you know, coaching a lot of guys on subjects like this, is that the best thing that you could possibly do is, if you are in, you know, if you met a girl, you're in a relationship, you would like it to become long term, is that you don't bring up relationship topics. Like, you will eventually, you know, you'll eventually have that discussion, and the girl will bring that up. Okay, so you don't need to worry about that. You don't need to concern yourself and you know, and try to say, hey, you should never have that conversation. You should never be like, hey, so what are we? You know, are you my girlfriend, or are we exclusive, right? That's the domain of the woman to bring that up, right? You're going to operate as if you're not exclusive. You're going to operate as if you know, as if you are seeking your freedom, and you're continuing to seek your freedom, and you're going to let her like escalate it to that level, right? If you try and do that, you're going to scare her away, you're going to make her lose the attraction, you're going to chase her away. But naturally, if you're spending time with a particular girl, she is going to want to lock you down. She's going to want to escalate the relationship to the next level, and that's really her domain of it, right? Your role as the guy is initiator, is starting the contact, is taking the bold move, is taking the risk in initially creating the connection, and then from that point forward, right, the roles reverse, right? Because if you're before you've met a girl, you're the chaser, right? The women sort of have the advantage in that they're standing around, right? They don't have to approach guys, they don't have to open guys, right? They don't have to face that kind of rejection, so you're the guy that is doing the chasing at that point, okay? And she's, the receptive one in that case, okay? But then once you have develop that kind of attraction, once you've slept with her, once whatever it is, you're in some kind of relationship mode with her, then the roles are reversed. Now it's really her responsibility to chase you, and you have to let her do that. Otherwise you're going to kind of ruin it, right? And you're going to ruin the experience for her. She wants to have a guy that she's excited about, that she's going after, not one that is constantly chasing her, trying to lock her down, right? So you should really be giving her freedom, right? You should not ask where she's going, what is she doing, right? She texts you and says, "Oh, I'm going with some friends and stuff." You're fine. You're cool with that. Just in general, you should never really even make that a big deal, right? You shouldn't be jealous. You shouldn't exhibit any of those things. Any of those things that would show that you are trying to lock down commitment is going to come off as needy. It's going to come off as bad, and it is not going to create attraction. You should just be, your value should be your freedom. Your value should be that, non-committal, okay, until she brings it up. Now, at that point, can you commit? Of course you can. At that point, you just have to do it in a way that doesn't suddenly, involve you shifting everything in your life to now surround this girl and to build your entire life around, make her the center and the main thing in your life. You still have to have your job, your career, your mission, whatever your focus is in life. That still needs to be your number one thing, even though you may be in a committed relationship, right? She's kind of earned that, right? And she has to earn that. Otherwise, it's not going to have any kind of value, right? If you're just giving that up, if you're just saying, okay, I'm just going to, commit to the very first girl that I meet, it's not going to have the value that if she's actually chasing and she has to earn that from you, that that she's proved herself to be worthy of it, that you're willing to to give up what is perhaps your most valuable thing as a man, which is that level of freedom, or just some degree of freedom. Then it has a high value to it, and you retain your dignity, right? It's something that you can take back, right? If you're giving it out so freely, if you're the one who's pressing it, you have no power to take it back. And so that's that's kind of the gist of it. I think that, like I said, this video does a really good job of explaining it. Very concise explanation. Mine is quite longer, but in a 3-minute video, he really does explain really well what I'm talking about here. I just went a little bit more into depth into some of the reasoning behind it. I think, again, a book that I recommend a lot to you guys on this channel is a book by David Data called The Way of the Superior Man. We'll put a link to there's a new audio version now that's really good. If you don't want I'd probably get the audio and the print, honestly. This is one of those books where you want to underline, where you want to read it multiple times, because it really talks about something that you don't see, right? You don't see a lot of, you see discussion here on YouTube on the black pill, red pill, MGTOW, pickup, and and feminism and all these kind of things. But what you don't see is what David Data talks about a lot, which is the actual relationship, the actual polarization, the masculine and the feminine, and those different qualities. And if you really want to understand how these things work, right, at a very deeper level, you need to understand this idea of polarity. You need to understand the difference between masculine and feminine, and why those things are different, why they attract each other, so that you can understand how to act as a man, right? And it's not just like acting, it's becoming, right? When you understand those qualities and why those are important and why those are different, not only, I think, can you become much more grounded as a man and understand your role, but you can understand women better, and you can understand the illogicalness of some of the behaviors of women and appreciate those things, because they're not a bad thing, right? We're living in a world where where everyone is, they're trying to make things to be non-binary, right? To not have the two genders, but to make it one, and to say that it's a social construction. And that's very destructive, right? Because that's not really how things work biologically. And even if they weren't, we would still want that social element of it, because it is what creates attraction. It's what creates the game. It's what creates the chase, right? Part of the whole thing that makes love and everything interesting is that chase, right? Is that polarization, is that passion that can only come from the two opposites. So in summary, yes, it is very true that commitment focused men are always going to be unattractive, right? It's going to be an unattractive quality, unattractive trait. It is going to indicate a level of neediness. It's going to indicate a level of scarcity. It's going to indicate a man that does not have options, that is not driven, okay, and is trying to hold on to things. And it is not going to be a desirable trait in a man. So if that upsets you, if you don't like that truth, it is too bad. It doesn't mean that you can't actually be a committed person, but you have to realize that it is, when you are beginning to enter a relationship with a woman, that is her domain. That is her responsibility. She's the one who needs to raise those relationship issues, to bring up the subject of commitment, and you're the one who is really the gatekeeper at the point, right? At the beginning, before you know her, she's kind of the gatekeeper of sex, okay? Afterwards, you're the gatekeeper of commitment, and so you don't want to give that up lightly. You want to retain that position, because that's really the only leverage point that you're going to have from that point forward in the relationship. So go ahead, if you haven't already, you might want to check out the Bulldog quiz. I got a Bulldog Mindset quiz that will tell you what your Bulldog score is, how much of a Bulldog you are, what kind of areas you need to work on in your life, from financial to physical to relationship. If you take the quiz, the next time it opens, you'll get an invite perhaps to join that. It's an exclusive group that I don't really advertise very much because it's invite only. But if you take the quiz, that's the first step to get there. So, all right, guys, I will talk to you next time. Take care.